How do you pinpoint your price margin on your art?
Yeah.
How does that work? Because art it's literally like the infinity logo. It could be anything.
It is, yeah.
So how do you?
I think that's a struggle for a lot of artists, because some artists, I think they overprice to where they never move product.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I don't know, maybe that happens in any world, right? I don't know. I'm speaking from the art, you know, and what I see currently in my profession. So, so when I first got out, I was in a halfway house and an art gallery hit me up. So like when I said I didn't know about Instagram, I didn't, but my cousin made me an Instagram while I was in prison.
So fire.
But I didn't know how I didn't have access to it.
Oh, she was doing all the work the work for you?
Yeah, I could take pictures in the hobby shop and you would buy a picture for $1. And then it would come and they'd bring it to you, and I would put it in the actual physical envelope, mail it to my mom, and then my mom would somehow like get it, and they would take another screenshot of it, and they started putting my art and telling people, you know. So when I got out, a gallery was like, "Hey, what's up with this piece?" And I'm in the a Watts halfway house. And I overpriced myself. He was like, I had Mickey Mouse on turntables with ecstasy in his mouth. You know,
with that,
and he was like, "How much is it?" And I think I said like 2,500, and I didn't even know. And you know, I was just like, it was a decent size. And he's like, "Oh, that's a little bit much for my place." And then I was like, "Oh, okay, no worries." And so I kind of just ended the conversation, and I wasn't allowed to leave the halfway house. You have to get like a note, and you can only go gone for like an hour or two. You know, so I was sitting there like stewing, and eventually I like backtracked to the dude's phone number that was texting me, and it was an art gallery, and I called him up and I was like, "Hey, you were texting me?" And you know, and I was like, "I'm so and so," and I was like, "What do you want to do?" You know what I mean? Like,
I want to get this off, man.
You know what I mean? And so I basically cold called him, even though he DM'd me, right, and was asking me a price. And then I was like, "Hey, listen, you know, like, this is my deal. I'm a felon, and this is what had just happened, and you know, I'm debating, like, I already knew I had a stockpile of artwork, right? I had like over 100. And so I know this going into my conversation with this person, like, I don't want to just sell one. I want to sell them all.
There we go.
You know? And so I started saying, like, you know, telling him my story.
Mindset never leaves you.
Right. And so I was like, you know, do I tell people about my story? And he's like, "Man, I really like your story," because he just absorbed it for like a half-hour phone call.
Definitely.
That's one thing I could do in the halfway house, was just bullshit on my bunk all day.
I love it.
I finally had a phone, because the whole time people say, some people have phones, but I didn't.
Yep.
And so I finally was like, and he was like, "Come through." And I said, "Okay." And I got a pass, and I went to this dude's place and I loaded up like 20 or 30 paintings, and I left him with them. And I basically told the dude, like, "Well, hey, you know what? Like, you know your people. I'm going to do somewhat of like just power of attorney and say, sell this stuff for any price you want." And he was like, "Okay, cool," you know? And oftentimes people don't know, but art galleries take 50%.
Oh,
they take the whole 50?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Art galleries, when you do that. So a lot of artists, you have to have those price points, because at the end of the day, the artist isn't getting the full amount of money.
Interesting.
Through that particular purchase.
Same with auctions?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, maybe it could be, if it's like $1 million or something, it could be a lesser percentage, right?
Got you.
But for the most part, it's always like a 50. And so,
wow.
Like, the mentality is, I dropped him all this work off, right? And like later in the week, he's like, "Hey, you know, can you get a pass to maybe hang out on Saturday?" It was the day after like the mega shopping day of Black Friday, like Christmas, like Thanksgiving or whatever.
Yep.
And so I was able to get a pass, and I actually told the halfway house, like, counselor, "Hey, I'm going to an art gallery. I'm trying to pursue myself as an artist. And, you know, I was up front and told him this is what I'm doing." So he gave me a pass, and it was some really cool stuff, like leading up to it, and then, you know, to go along with the price point discussion.
Yep.
So like, I'm driving there, and he's like texting me, "How long before you're here?" I'm like, "I don't know, 20 minutes. And when I get there was already, like, he had my artwork for maybe like a week. People had already purchased it and heard the story.
Wow.
You know? And then they came and like lined up, and like I rolled up out of a halfway house, like, "What's up?" You know what I mean?
Tight thing,
And
yeah.
all of a sudden, there's a line of people, and they're
For
like,
you.
"Yeah," and they're like, "Hey, man, we want your autograph." And I was like, "Autograph?
No,
Like,
wow.
what the
Damn,
heck's
son.
going on?" You know, like, but I manifested this
Yes.
leaving prison. But I let this person just like run with it because that's just how I do it. Like in my game of weed back in the day, I would front you and people would owe me $1 million and it was nothing. But maybe like my homie like Jamal go, I don't know how you sleep at night, Sin, because so many people owe you.
Right.
And some people can't have that on their, you know, but me, I don't, like some of those things, my mind blocks it out.